Nithyanandam, everybody.
Nithyanandam, guys! Welcome back to our joint channel, the Anandas.
Yes, today we are talking all about Ayurveda and how you can improve your health the Ayurvedic way.
Yes, so this is going to be our next episode, our next podcast episode of Yoga from the Source. And the second time we're live streaming, hopefully we give you guys a little better quality this time. That's what we've been working on the past 20 minutes or so. So we hope that the audio is coming through clearer than last time. And if it's not, we're going to be uploading a very clear audio, at least on the pure audio podcast format on our iTunes and Spotify. So you can always listen to that as well.
We even have an intro song that we're going to play in right now.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the intro song?
Anandas, 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 Nithyananda.
Oh, is it you singing?
It's just me singing. Yeah. Okay, so that wasn't very good. But we do obviously want to increase the technology and improve our production value for everybody here. So, but without further ado, we won't talk too much about that. Let's dive into our prayer, and then we will start off talking all about Ayurveda. So if you're somebody that's struggling with body aches, dealing with some sort of digestive issue, maybe any physical pain, but not just physical. Let's say you're struggling with anxiety, depression. Ayurveda is the science of life that deals not just with the body, but also with the mind. Mm-hmm. So this episode is definitely going to help you with that.
Absolutely.
But before we dive into that, we'll start off with our prayer, and then we'll discuss all about Ayurveda. Nithyanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gagana Sadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami. Awesome. Nithyanandam, everybody. So today we're talking about Ayurveda, and which is known as the science of life. It translates roughly to science of life, right? Mm-hmm. So what is, and this is a real broad question we're going to lead off with, but what is Ayurveda?
Yes, great question. So Ayurveda is, I'm going to do my best to be concise in my answers as well, because you all know I can really get talking. But Ayurveda is exactly translated in Sanskrit to the science of life. And basically what it is the original medicinal system. It's the oldest system of medicine in the world documented. And it is outlived every other system of medicine because it's still alive today. So that just shows you its power. That if it has really lasted 6,000 years, and actually we believe it's much longer than that, but for posterity we say 6,000 years because that's widely accepted. If it's lasted that long, there's something to it. It has been proven for that long to work, to have an effect. And so it is a traditional healing system from India that uses herbs, diet, and lifestyle to heal the body. And it's all about natural healing. There's no idea of bad side effects of substances that you take for healing that in itself doesn't include it as a healing substance. And so it's a very extremely life positive and highly impactful healing system.
And so you're saying that it's roughly 6,000 years old. Is that just specifically because of texts like Charka Samhita are dated that far back?
Yeah, the reason why they say it's 6,000 years old is actually originally from the Atharva Veda. So before the Samhitas were written, which are the more recent texts on Ayurveda, and more recent still 4,000, 5,000 years old, and some of them are a little more modern, like 2,000 years old. But still, right, we consider that very ancient in the West.
This is proven, right? Yeah. This is proven that this book is 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 years old.
Yeah, and the Atharva Veda, which was the original, considered to be the original scripture written down, is said to be dated 6,000, minimum of 6,000 years old. We should say that because, in archaeology, if you are at all familiar with it, they usually give a range, right? If you even go to like some museum exhibit or Egyptian exhibit, they don't ever usually tell you an exact date. They'll give you like the minimum, this is at least 10,000 years old. We know that it ranges in this period. Same way they'll say about the Vedas. And so in Hindu history, in Sanatana Dharma, we actually believe the Vedas to be, well, for lack of a better word, timeless. They actually have existed for much, much longer than even human beings have. But in written form, that's what they say, that how long it's existed.
Okay. And so the founder of Ayurveda, Ayurvedic system, Dhanvantari, can you speak a little bit about him and the whole process of how Ayurveda came to life?
Yes, it's a really cool story actually, and I'm obviously not the best at telling it compared to some Ayurvedic scholars, but I will do my best as from what I've learned from my teachers. Basically, how Ayurveda was brought to the earth was during the creation of the earth. We consider and call in Sanatana Dharma the churning of the Milky Ocean. You'll hear this story being told a lot if you're at all familiar with Hinduism. This is when gods and goddesses were birthed. This is when the physical matter was created of this earth. And you can actually really understand it as almost like Big Bang. When the way it's described in the Vedas is shockingly similar to what modern science now says happened when all of these things were created. And so, anywho, when during that time, it's considered that Dhanvantari, who we now call the Lord of Healing, the Lord of Ayurveda, was emerged out of this creation space with this pot of nectar, and he had the knowledge of the science of Ayurveda there with him. And that science was then given to sages and enlightened beings when they started meditating. They connected to him in that space, and all of this wisdom was downloaded into them in very complex detail. And then they started sharing it with their students and sharing it with the general public to heal them. And then their students started to write it down some hundreds and thousands of years later.
Interesting. Very interesting. So one of the main components of this whole healing system is that each body is extremely individual. For instance, you look at somebody like even a physical standpoint, a mesomorph versus an ectomorph. Somebody might be really tall and skinny. Some bodies might be really short and stout. So each body is unique in its own light, and Ayurveda does acknowledge this.
Yep.
But it does acknowledge this in a quite a different and unique way through what are the doshas. And I started to learn a bit more about the doshas because of you recently. I guess it's been a little bit of time now, but understanding what my dosha is. But for somebody that doesn't even know what the word dosha, what that means, what does it mean to have your dosha checked? What does it mean to have a dosha?
Yeah. So this is definitely the most well-known aspect of Ayurveda by far, right? If you know anything about Ayurveda, you'll know the doshas, or you'll have heard about it and maybe not fully understand it, because the doshas have played a role in yoga as well. In the New Age yoga community of the West, the idea of that aspect of Ayurveda has really infiltrated the yoga scene, the yoga community, and so that's why it's been starting to get known. But basically, the doshas, you can understand them as biological energies. They're considered to be the three differentiating biological energies of a living body. So this isn't just human beings, but also animals and plants are considered to have a dosha. So any of these living bodies have a dosha, and what a dosha is it looks at your physical structure, but also your personality. So it incorporates two dimensions. It's a little bit of the mind incorporated with the body. So it's not just what you look like or how your body operates, also your predisposition, almost, you can say. And what some people translate it as, which I think is a kind of accurate translation, is your constitution. What your constitution is. Like since if you look back on your life, what's your tendency? What are your patterns? What do you go towards? What is the foods that you lean towards? What are the habits of your daily lifestyle that you lean towards? What are your emotional reactions? All of those things are considered to be part of the dosha and can show you what your dosha is. Because when a dosha, we all have all three doshas, just to be clear, which is vata, pitta, and kapha. The vata energy is like the wind and air and space energy, while the pitta energy is fire and a little bit of water, but mainly you can think of it as fire energy. And kapha is earth and water, but mainly earth. So these energies rule our bodies, and we all have them. They're very important for all of our biological functions. But when they're imbalanced, they give us problems. They give us diseases and disorders of the mind and the body. So when we look at somebody's dosha, we're not only looking at what their constitution is, but if they also have a current imbalance, that's another layer of that dosha as well. A current imbalance, what they might be afflicted with at this time period.
So you can balance your body or balance your mind directly through the opposite, in a sense. So if you have an unstable mind, that can be picked up when discovering your dosha.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Really a key concept in Ayurveda, and actually majority, which I find this interesting, every single traditional medicinal system in the world, including Chinese medicine, the only one which doesn't follow this is homeopathy, which is the concept of, we call it in Ayurveda, samanya and vishesha. Samanya is meaning likes increase likes and dissimilars decrease, which means, right, like if something's hot, cold is going to decrease it. But if something's hot and something else is hot, hot is just going to be increased.
Okay.
Right? So it's like two positives create more positive, two negatives create more negative, but a positive and negative can balance each other out. The only system which doesn't follow this is homeopathy, but we don't need to go into that. But it's an interesting concept because it's used throughout so many different traditional systems. And Ayurveda, this is a very key concept. So for example, if you had, we would consider like sour gut, amala pitta, which is like you're having acid reflux or heartburn, really common condition, right? Super common in the US to have. You have to then look at what you don't want to be eating foods which are going to create more acidity and more heat, because what that condition is heat and sourness. It's a sourness almost of the gut. And so sour and hot foods are only going to increase that. Spicy foods, pungent foods, and sour foods are going to aggravate that. And then you want to look and you want to go towards foods that are going to be more pacifying, that are maybe sweeter and calmer on the gut. So like that, we follow those principles.
And so right away, like you start diving into certain things on how you can help heal whatever your dosha is, or balance the doshas rather. So what's another way of actually assessing, or not another way, but what are the ways of assessing somebody's dosha? I remember I recently got my dosha checked, and there's a few different ways that they go about doing it. And Prasiddha was the one that was also there checking. She was in the process of learning how to authentically check somebody's dosha, which includes feeling the pulse. So what are all the ways of checking somebody's dosha? And maybe you can elaborate a little bit on when they're putting the 3 fingers onto my wrist, what are they doing? Because they're feeling the pulse itself. So maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, there's quite a few ways to assess a dosha, but I would say the most predominant ways are absolutely a questionnaire of the person. So you always have to still know and ask and really get in detail of that person. Again, their lifestyle habits, their personality habits, their physical tendencies. And then on top of that, what a really good way to also evaluate, which is a skill a lot of people don't have, and even I don't have yet, hopefully I will soon one day, but it's a very in-depth skill, is to be able to feel dosha through pulse. And when we look at pulse, we don't look at like the heart rate. It's not like we're not feeling for beats per minute when we feel a pulse in Ayurveda. We're looking for those 3 doshas, those 3 biological energies, and each one has a location under your fingertip when you're feeling somebody's pulse. And so we use 3 fingers, and each finger represents a different dosha. And we look for the rhythms, the depth of the pulse, the heaviness of a pulse, the width of a pulse, and all this sounds weird. It's a very subtle thing you have to pick up on, and only by practice and feeling a lot of people you start to be able to notice it. And I've started to, it's a slow process, but it's really cool once you start to get to understand what those different energies actually feel like under your fingers, and you can physically read it, you can physically see it. Another very important way to read a dosha is also just in-person assessment. Ayurvedic doctors in India, normally what they will do is they'll look at you and immediately they can tell you what your dosha is. Because not only is it's not just what the physicality they're looking at, but even the way you hold yourself and express yourself, they can tell your dosha very quick. So if they're looking at you, they can immediately be like, oh, this is the color of your skin. I can feel that person's hand is warm or cold. I can see the body shape of that person. I can see the luster in their eyes. I can see if their skin is glowing or if it's oily. I can see if they're really talkative or if they're more shy, right? So all of these things they can immediately pick up on in a few minutes and tell what your dosha is.
Wow. Very cool. And so that's one big question right now. A lot of people, when they learn about things like this, where can they actually get their dosha checked in an authentic way as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the ideal is always getting a consultation by far. You want to have, if you really, really, truly want to know, no gray areas of what your dosha is, and the most authentic way to balance it and address it is there's no way of getting around. You should absolutely have a consultation with an Ayurvedic practitioner or educator or doctor. And the other way you can do it, and it's not to say that you can't get anything from an online questionnaire. There's a lot of online questionnaire, like literally thousands of them on the internet right now. If you find one that's the most in-depth, that asks you like a lot of questions and asks you about your physical tendencies, your personality traits, your relationships with other people, and in-depth asks you about all those things, you can get a fair assessment of where your constitution may be. It's not going to tell you, however, and this is important to know, it's not going to tell you your current imbalance. And this is a thing I see a lot of people getting twisted nowadays, and it's not by any fault of their own, but when we look at for our dosha, we often think, oh, since I'm a vata pitta, now I need to start eating this way. So maybe, right, I take a questionnaire online, I see my dosha, and I start seeing that I shouldn't have sweet foods and I shouldn't have sour foods, and I should have more astringent and bitter foods and leafy greens, right? So I start doing that without realizing that currently, even though that's my my natural constitution, my current imbalance might be in the opposite dosha. And now what I'm doing is I'm aggravating that dosha more. So even though we have a constitution, our dosha, that has been with us through life and will stay with us, our current imbalance is often different. It is not necessarily because I'm a vata person that my imbalance is vata right now. I could have a pitta imbalance, and if I don't address that first, I'm only going to throw myself off more. So it is important, before you start really doing drastic changes and things, you really have to get a comprehensive picture of where your body is at. And so a consultation is definitely the best way to do it. My school does them, very affordable if you guys are in the area. I will also be doing them coming up in April because I graduate. So you can get a consultation from me in April as well if you're interested. But I would definitely suggest starting to explore and just self-education is the best thing you can do. The more that you learn, the more you understand the doshas and how they work. And then when you take a quiz, you're going to get a general idea and you'll start to notice and you'll start to learn as you go. So it's still important, I think, to take do a questionnaire online and start exploring that. And then if you can go in depth wherever that you're living, Ayurveda is spreading. And so if you're by any major city, I would tell you there's probably a practitioner near you that you can go to for, more depth information.
Great. So one thing that we've kind of been talking about, and we talked a little bit in previous videos that we've just recorded about ashwagandha, haritaki, a few different other herbs that people should be taking. And when people say that, for instance, oh, I have an ulcer, should I be taking ashwagandha still? Let's say they just have some little illness that they're dealing with. What is the way around that? Because there is not one golden rule in a sense that everybody should be taking something the exact same way because it affects each dosha in a little bit of a different manner, right?
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit on, for somebody is dealing with a specific health issue? This does not mean that you should be taking blank herbs just like everybody else.
Yes, exactly. So another important thing to note is that, I think this is another reason, personally, my conclusion is another reason why the system like Ayurveda has not, spread like wildfire. I truly think the only reason that hasn't happened is because it's an individualized medicine system. And right now, our mindset in our current society is we want a very easy solution for everything. And that's just what it is right now. People want, if everybody's like, everybody picks up on crazes, in the health community, with food, with supplements, with everything. And so if you're not telling somebody, this is it, guys, like, everybody take my supplement, everybody take this smoothie every day, everybody should have all of these, superfoods every single day. Ayurveda doesn't work that way. There's absolutely not a one size fits all assessment in Ayurveda. So I think that's why it hasn't necessarily just caught on, because you absolutely can't just do that with Ayurveda. You can't take something and run with it, because that's not how the system was built. It's a very, very detailed science, and it is very based on individuals. So we never diagnose or prescribe anything based on a condition. It's based on a person. So, for example, right, if somebody has diabetes in the West, in allopathic medicine, diabetes means X, Y, and Z. You're going to get insulin treatments. You're going to be on a certain diet because you have diabetes. We don't do that same thing in Ayurveda. If we were to say that you have diabetes, which we don't call diabetes, obviously, in Ayurveda, but if we were to assess that you have that similar condition in Ayurveda, you, Dridha, if you had that, would not get the same treatment as me if I had it, because it's not disease-based science. So you might need, this body tissue to be addressed first, because that's the root of your diabetes. I might need my vata energy addressed first, because that's the root of my diabetes. We don't consider the root to be the same. So the treatment is not the same. So it's really important to understand that before we try to slap a Band-Aid on everything, and then we don't get the whole science for what it's meant to be, and we don't experience the full power of it, So when you have a specific condition, you have to be addressed individually. There's really no way around it. And I know it does kind of suck. Like, we do, all of us, where even me, I wish it could just be so much more easy to just do it and not have to put in the work. But Ayurveda requires a little bit of that kind of work from our side to be able to heal our bodies correctly,
So let's say somebody is generally healthy, but they deal with a certain, ailment here and there. Nothing serious though. They're not on medication for anything. Is there, let's say, a blanket of herbs that they could be taking as just a daily dosage? Like, hey, this is just good for all doshas. This will help you.
Yeah, there's definitely a handful of substances that can be used a little more widespread than others, and those are important to know. Absolutely. That being said, it still is a little more individualized, in the sense that, for example, what I'll share with you is, for men and women, there's herbs that can be taken daily, but it also helps to know what your sex is, so that you can address that properly. So, for example, ashwagandha can be amazing, what we call a rasayana, which is like a longevity, anti-aging promoting. It helps with, fertility, overall male health, and is going to just increase the body tissues and strengthen the body. So ashwagandha can be taken quite consistently by men if you're at a healthy standpoint. And likewise, we have an herb called shatavari, which is considered like the female tonic. It has very similar properties to ashwagandha, but it targets female body organs, and so it prolongs and promotes the health of our ovaries and our mammary glands and all of these different components of our body, while balancing our hormones and helping us to have longevity and anti-aging as well. So there's little, still little tidbits of there. So those are two great ones to be taking for male and female health. Then there's haritaki is obviously an amazing, also considered a rasayana, which is like a longevity promoting herb, and it balances the three doshas, all three doshas. So when if you're really looking for a substance, the safest substances, the safest herbs you can find are absolutely ones that are meant for all three doshas. I would say another great way to take something, probably one of the most well-known things, but for good reason, that is given to a lot of new people as they're entering into Ayurveda is Triphala. Triphala is one of the best things you can take on a daily basis, and there are no negative side effects. So it's one of the safest things you can tell anyone. I can really safely tell you that right now, that Triphala would very much help all of you.
So what are the other two ingredients in Triphala? It's haritaki.
Yes, so Triphala is 3 herbs, okay? It's haritaki is in it, so you get your haritaki already there. It's amalaki and vibhitaki. So it's 3 power-packed herbs that are amazing for nourishing your body and preventing disease. And also, they're considered to be adaptogens. They're high in vitamin C. Even just if we're looking at a modern lens of them, they're extreme superfoods, really they are. And they're amazing for all the doshas. So they're going to balance vata, pitta, and kapha in any body type, and they're going to prolong health. So Triphala can absolutely be taken. It's a great place to start, I would say.
And just to touch on adaptogens, because you brought that up, a lot of the Ayurvedic herbs are known and are so potent because they are adaptogens. Can you just touch base on exactly what an adaptogen is and how it helps heal the body?
So really cool that there's thousands of Ayurvedic herbs, but there's about 500 really well-known Ayurvedic herbs used frequently within the system of Ayurveda. So 500, that's a lot. They have proved now that all of the Ayurvedic herbs written about in these ancient scriptures, every single one of them is an adaptogen.
What? I didn't know each one.
In modern medicine, only like recently has understood this concept of what an adaptogen is, which is it's like a substance that has almost like it has its own intelligence. It has its own brain. So when you take it, it goes exactly where your body needs. So if I took it, it would do a different thing for my body than it would for Dridha's, and than it would for you. Because if you were lacking in one area, say, your heart health, it would actually go to your heart and help nourish the heart. Whereas if I was having, problems in my menstrual cycle, it would target that area because that's where my body was having issues. That's what an adaptogen is. It'll go to the most needed areas of your body. It'll be utilized differently by your body.
So I don't want to veer too much away from the exact topic, but I just want to flow with this a bit. So the adaptogen, when you have a heart issue, is it a way of, let's say you're vegan and you're struggling with B12, your B12 is lower somehow. Does an adaptogen help with that somehow?
I mean, it's not necessarily like the end all be all, like it's going to give, like it can't materialize like certain vitamins and minerals, right?
Okay.
But what it means is that it's going to be, okay, so ashwagandha, for example, it's considered to be a bulk promoting herb, which means it helps you put on muscle and body weight, okay? But if somebody who was already heavier, like say they were actually struggling with weight loss, they were a little obese, and was taking ashwagandha, it actually doesn't mean that them taking ashwagandha, well, we wouldn't say necessarily as an Ayurvedic practitioner to not take ashwagandha because that person is trying to lose weight. Because when ashwagandha is taken by that person, their body already knows they don't need bulk promotion. So it's not going to be used in that way necessarily in their system. Like that, it has that intelligence. So the properties of the herb, it will go towards more one area than the other. It won't necessarily it's not like a magic thing where it'll make B12 in your body. No, but like that's how it'll be used.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
But so just to wrap up almost, if somebody is dealing with no real serious issues, you're basically suggesting haritaki, ashwagandha, and Triphala as a whole?
Yeah, and I mean, females, I would say shatavari is better to take than ashwagandha. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
But ashwagandha still has its purpose. So I mean, it's not going to do any damage really to take ashwagandha.
Yeah.
I wouldn't take it every single day unless you are really you have no health issues and you are really you're going more towards muscle mass or tissue repair. Or if it's been prescribed for a specific condition, which also it has other benefits as well. But otherwise, you can still definitely take it, like a few times a week or maybe in smaller dosage. But Shatavari is a great one to take for female health.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. Ayurvedic. This is a real basic intro to what it is. And I know I'm continuously learning things. And so I appreciate Prasiddha just taking the reins on this podcast and running with Ayurveda. If you guys have any questions on Ayurveda specifically, feel free to let us know in the comments and reach out to us, connect with us on our various platforms. Prasiddha, of course, is the Kundalini Yogini. I am the Blissful Athlete on various different platforms, whether that's Instagram, Twitter. Are you on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah, Twitter.
I am on Twitter.
YouTube. TikTok. We're starting to use TikTok a little bit more. You guys can play with us a little bit there.
That's been fun.
Yeah, it's more of a lighthearted approach to social media for us, so you won't be learning a ton there, but you can really enjoy the space that we have, I guess. But is there any last things that you would say on Ayurveda?
I would really, of course, suggest learning directly yourself. That's really important to understand Ayurveda. You have to keep exploring and self-educating. But yeah, we would love to see you guys on our next videos and podcasts. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. And also sign up for our podcast because it's free. It's on iTunes and Podbean and Spotify. So anywhere that's easiest for you, you can get updates when we have a new episode out. You can listen to the audio in your car instead of video format if you prefer. So whatever you guys want, we're there. And we will see you guys in the next one. And then I guess we can address the comments real quick before we go. So I saw a comment that, is this involved with Kriya Yoga in any way? Do you have a response to that?
My response would be they're different in a sense that, well, Kriya Yoga, well, you can also say that they are related. Kriya Yoga being, obviously, you're working specifically on body and mind as well. But the way I see Ayurveda, and correct me if I'm wrong, I am seeing it more of like an assessment approach. Like first you get assessed. In Kriya Yoga, there's no real initial assessment. There's no like, this is a unique Kriya for your body type. There are different Kriyas for specific ailments that you might have. But as far as that really unique approach to healing somebody, and even just a day-to-day general approach to physical and mental health, there are similarities.
But they definitely overlap. Like, I mean, I wouldn't just say for Kriya Yoga. Like, I don't want to talk too much about that because we don't practice Kriya Yoga, so we don't know a lot about it, plain and simple.
Yeah.
But in general, yoga and Ayurveda are absolutely, they're considered like sister sciences. Yoga is used in Ayurveda and Ayurveda is used in yoga.
Yeah.
Because they're all part of Sanatana Dharma. So, yeah, they're definitely interrelated.
Yeah.
In general.
Yeah. But
for Kriya Yoga, I'm not sure I would have to do some research on that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And hello to both of you guys, Barbie and Francisco. Great to see you guys here again. And Broly said that I believe herbal medicine is superior to the ones in pharmacies because it's natural. And yes, every body is different. Yeah, that's pretty much the approach of Ayurveda as well. And, I think the coolest thing is sometimes we think that the natural approaches are less potent, you could say, like less powerful, less instant in healing. But within Ayurveda, the herbs are extremely powerful. And there's some stuff you obviously can't get in the US. It's just not allowed, sadly. But even from what's allowed, they make such a drastic difference in your health. They really, really work. It's not just, some like fluff that they really work. You just have to do that. You just have to take them authentically and routinely, and you'll really see that result.
Yeah. And if I could say, just especially on Harataki, it's one of those herbs. It does not taste great, but you will notice the difference if you stick with it and you consume it each day for a consistent period of time, like 60 days or so. You'll notice the difference. So definitely recommend Harataki, at least if you have no real health issues. This question here is in Spanish, so you're gonna have to read that.
I can actually kind of read it, but you might have to help me a little bit. I know can there be So can there be Ayurveda? I don't know.
They're not saying can they, they're saying puede ser.
No, I'm translating. No,
Ayurveda aborda la salud de
No, please don't. Please don't. Oh, okay. Or is that the translation? I don't know, but I'm afraid most people don't understand what real Ayurvedic medicine means. There is a problem about paradigms in medicine. Oh yeah, it's going to be a long-term education process for sure. I think that right now, what's not, application of Ayurveda is not even what's most needed. It's actually education, because that's what has to come first. The entire way we think about health and medicine is completely reversed from what it used to be and what it always has been. There's zero emphasis on prevention. There's no promotion of health. There's only dealing with disease when it's already there. And that's the opposite of Eastern medicine in general. That's the opposite of traditional medicine. It's all about preventing disease and promoting and prolonging health and giving us the highest quality of life. That's not even looked at right now. So there's a lot of education that has to be there. And people, I think once they're educated, they'll feel more comfortable in taking responsibility, and they'll start to step up more in taking responsibility for their health.
Yeah. And the education system itself, obviously that's a completely different topic, but there's a lot of issues with how education is in the Western world. And I think that is already in a transition. If you look even just like at platforms like YouTube, influencers, people taking online courses, education is shifting in a different way, where it's more in our hands as the individual user to see and choose who we learn from. And I think it's going to start with the individual and, spread out through influencers. And then it's just through the people will make that change within the government as well. So that is happening. Yep.
Yeah, it's good. It's, it's going to be slow a little bit, but it's happening. It's definitely moving that direction. And yes, absolutely. That's exactly what I thought it was, but I didn't want to embarrass myself and mess up my Spanish. But yes, it absolutely, Ayurveda is a holistic system. It only looks at the whole parts all together, not just one aspect of what's going wrong, what's happening. And it is exactly that, like we were just saying, it's about prioritizing health promotion, not just curing disease. Yeah. So although it can cure disease, but it's a lot about preventing it in the first place, and also taking the right steps, changing our lifestyle habits ultimately at the end of the day, and our diets to make sure that we're in balance and our body is in harmony.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Nithyananda, Rick, thank you guys for joining us. I know this channel is still a little small, but it'll just keep growing. It'll be fun to grow with you guys here, and definitely we look forward to keep sharing this. It's really fun to get to do live podcasts now. So thank you guys all for your help in that one.
Yes, we made it above 1,000. Appreciate it. Again, if you're new here, definitely do subscribe. We definitely appreciate all the love and support on our end as well. And yeah, we'll be doing more videos, podcasts specifically on Ayurveda. We do everything that falls under the umbrella of yoga and the lifestyle of Sanatana Hindu Dharma. So with that, we'll close out.
Absolutely.
With the Purna Mantra, and we'll see you guys in further session. Wait, we got one last question. Any specific diet plan that is focused on Ayurveda?
So
you missed the whole.
I think you did miss the whole podcast, but it's
rewatch.
Okay. It's okay.
Re-listen.
Because every single diet will be individualized. But if you actually have to do this, the ultimate safest diet for every single body that is only about balancing and not letting anything get imbalanced, it's the Sattvic diet. So we have an entire podcast episode, and that's my personal favorite episode we've gotten to do. So check out that episode on our channel, and I think it will help you a lot with that question.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll close with Purna Mantra. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Bhagavan Sri Nithyananda Paramashivam Paduka Padamastu. Om Nithyanandam. Whew. Nithyanandam, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you guys in future videos and recordings.
Yes, thank you guys. Nithyananda, everyone.